When someone says Samsung smartphones, I think of devices just like this, the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. It's the quintessential Samsung mobile from just a few years ago. A sleek, smooth design, versatile hardware and software features, and good cameras, but nothing chart-topping. In many ways, the Galaxy S9 Plus is a classic Samsung smartphone, but at just over 3 years old, is it getting on a bit? Is it worth buying in 2021? Is it worth upgrading from, or should you look for something else? Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and this is my 2021 review of the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. The S9 Plus launched for £869 here in the UK, and you can get one on eBay for around £200, so it's obviously less than quartered in value. But the main thing is that back in the day, £869 was actually quite a lot for a flagship smartphone, and in 2021, if you're looking for the best of the best, you're going to be paying over £1,000 to Samsung for its latest Samsung flagship, whether you're a Note user or an S-Line user. At £200 on eBay, you will get one with a few scratches, but nothing too bad. And because it's made of glass and metal, most people put cases on their smartphones anyway, and you're going to get one in decent condition. The one I have here is a US Snapdragon model. However, what I'm talking about mainly is the US Exynos model, which is obviously on the UK stores of eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree, sort of third-party second-hand sites. This also makes it cheaper than like the OnePlus Nord and the Pixel 4a, which are modern smartphones that are sort of low-end smartphones. You're getting a lot more for your money with this older setup, but whether you should go with this or one of those in terms of practicality, well, we're going to discuss that further on in the video. What it is compared to those models though is definitely well built. It's a typical Samsung flagship. It's got curved sides on both the front and the back. It's got crisp aluminium rails around the outside. The S9 and the S9 Plus really had shallow camera bumps. I mean, I'll try and get it as best I can on video here, but basically it meant taking them out of your pocket was really smooth. A lot of sub £500 smartphones these days might have really good specs, but they're usually made of plastic, which obviously isn't as nice to hold and to feel as glass and metal, and also it's going to gather more scratches naturally. I'm a big fan of this design layout, I'm not going to lie. It's got some thin-ish bezels on the top and the bottom, with these tiny bezels on the side, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I really enjoy this uninterrupted display layout, even if it means that there is a small bezel on the top and the bottom. Of course, you get this lovely design along with some more practical hardware elements like a 3.5mm headphone port with some fantastic EQ tuning options, hybrid stereo speakers, IP68 water and dust resistance, microSD expansion, wireless charging, AC Wi-Fi, iris scanning tech, and a proper fingerprint scanner instead of one of those fiddly in-display units. When you consider the price and the age of this smartphone, there's an awful lot going for it. The display feels strangely new and aged at the same time. It's a 6.2-inch Quad HD Plus 60Hz AMOLED display. I'm not sure if my Galaxy S10's display is faulty or something, but comparing it to the S9 Plus, the S9 Plus seems to have a brighter display, which is kind of nuts. For those with both devices in hand, if you could test them side by side and let me know which is brighter, that would be great. The S9 Plus's display is really bright out in direct sunlight. It's quite something. It's not quite as responsive as a high refresh rate panel, but it does look really sharp, bright and colourful, and that's characteristic of a Samsung display. Software-wise, unfortunately the S9 and S9 Plus are officially limited to One UI 2.5 running on Android 10. Now, this isn't going to be a problem for kind of the layman for at least another year yet, because you have got security updates, and this does mean that you can get good compatibility with a lot of apps. It's not like you're going to be locked out of your Facebook or Twitter anytime soon. However, for that peace of mind, a lot of people will want to go with a more modern handset that will get more software support going into the future. And Samsung has actually been beating a couple of other companies, OnePlus, when it comes to software support going forward on its flagship devices recently. So I would say if you're looking for something for the next 3 or 4 years, do go with a Samsung flagship of 2021, such as the S21 series. I have the US Qualcomm model of the S9 Plus here, which means that instead of the Exynos 9810 chipset that you got in the UK and Europe, I've actually got a Snapdragon 845, which is up to 10% faster in both CPU and GPU performance. This model does feel a lot quicker than the Exynos model, having used both, maybe not side by side, but one after the other. And in fact, it feels a lot quicker than the Galaxy S10 I have here with an Exynos chipset in it, which is a little strange, but I'll leave a link to the Speed Test G video by Gary Explains, which shows that actually the S9 Plus has a more powerful GPU in it than the S10 when it comes to Qualcomm versus Exynos. It's really strange to see, but I guess that's just how it is. That said, everyday usage for me hasn't been a problem. I mainly use my smartphone for a bit of social media. I'll watch a video every now and then, and maybe I'll play a game maybe once every 3 or 4 months when I'm not testing a smartphone. And, you know, for that's just fine. The S9 Plus is going to be fine for a lot of people, even for probably the next year. Even for people who like playing games, like the performance really isn't bad. I'll actually be more worried about the battery life than the performance. I played a few games on this thing and it ran just fine. However, if you're a real power user, and we'll get on to battery life in a second, I would recommend going with something newer because the battery in this thing is rather small. Performance-wise though, it's really not that bad. Battery life-wise, the S9 Plus was never a chart topper, and now it's especially meh. It's a pretty huge phone and it only has a 3500 mAh battery, so you're naturally not going to get amazing battery life. More modern Samsungs and other smartphones have actually been going up in terms of their battery size, but also increasing the thickness of their smartphones. This was sort of at an era where we were going for more of a sleek design and not caring too much about the battery size, whereas these days obviously we've reverted from that. With a good battery that's been well looked after, this thing will get you through a full day, depending on your usage. I hate giving these statistics and things because it can all vary. There's a lot of nuance to battery life, and I've spoken about that on this channel before. But for me, who's more of a lighter user, you know, I sit a lot on my desks and I mostly use the computer for everything. The Samsung S9 can get me through a full day, the S9 Plus that is. However, if you're commuting a lot, you know, using a lot of Bluetooth, 4G connectivity, you've got your brightness all the way up, this thing is going to struggle, and it did struggle for me during my time sort of testing outdoors. You can replace the battery in the smartphone to get better battery life. However, unfortunately, I wasn't able to test this. I don't really have the means to just go out and buy a battery to test it in a smartphone that, you know, I'm not going to use for a long time because I've already used this thing. Long story short, battery life's not amazing, charging is good but not super quick anyway, but it does have wireless charging, so that's a benefit. What might matter to you are the cameras on the Galaxy S9 Plus. So you get 3 versus the 2 on the S9, that extra one being a telephoto. Spec-wise, it's not looking too bad. It lacks an ultra-wide, which makes flexibility a little meh, but otherwise the actual quality isn't too bad. Dual 12 megapixel sensors on the back and an 8 megapixel selfie camera on the front. And the results? Well, I wasn't expecting much, so I was actually quite surprised by the decent photos from the dual camera system on the S9 Plus. These sensors are really not the biggest in either resolution nor physical size, but give it good enough lighting conditions and it will excel. If anything, it lacks a little bit of dynamic range. You can see that the system is doing a lot of shadow lifting, which results in some muddy and grainy darker areas. However, it's not awful, and I don't think many people will be upset with this camera quality for the money. I've been using the telephoto camera quite a lot more recently, and this is an f2.4 unit with OIS, which makes up for its tiny sensor. It's clearly not as good as the main sensor in low light, but the quality isn't awful. You have to remember that this thing is a 3-year-old device and a £200 one at that. In that context, the S9 Plus's camera is definitely enough in quality. So then, should you go out and buy it? Personally, I would advise against it if you can get a newer model. If you're limited to something of this age or older, then definitely pick up the S9 Plus, because whether you're just using it to commute with, or you're using it for a lot of social media usage, maybe you're running a social media account, or if you're just the everyday person who doesn't care about software, you know, I don't care if I've got the latest and greatest version, I don't care if I've got the latest and greatest hardware, it's a good enough smartphone. It's quick enough, it's got really good cameras, battery life is okay, it's not amazing, but it's okay. You've got plenty of hardware features, you know, you've got that micro SD expansion and that headphone port, you know, neither of which are really available in the newest smartphones anyway, so you're getting that as an added bonus. If you don't care about the fast charging and like me, you sort of charge your phone at night anyway, then that's not going to be a problem either. All around, it's a really, really good smartphone for the money. I would say if you could get one for like £150 to £170, you're getting a fantastic deal. At £200, it's still very good value for money, but it's obviously not quite as good. It is worth noting though that I was using the Snapdragon model, and the Exynos model is naturally not going to be as good as the one I used in this review. And with that, I'm going to leave today's video, guys. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one, and also check out all my social media links in the video description. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Peace.